So today I'm just going to start the new topic, so which we call it as an framework. So like what does mean by framework? So the single short answer, we can say it as an execution system. So like in a real time, so we may automate a number of scenarios. So let's say like in your project, like you have automated 100 scenarios. Okay. And how will you automate this 100 scenarios in the sense? So only with the help of the Selenium and Java. And how will you pick this 100 scenarios in the sense? So basically like in a real time, like we will be doing the testing called as an regression testing. Okay, so what is mean by regression testing? So the regression testing is nothing but like we are just going to check the important functionality of an application, or in other hand we can say it as of an happy path flow of an application. So like why we are going to check the important functionality in the sense, so let's take an WhatsApp as an example. So like while the WhatsApp is launched, so like we had a chat feature, and post that the WhatsApp has introduced a new feature like payments, or now they have introduced the broadcast. So they are keep on adding the new features. So like whenever like new feature is introduced, so it technically indicates the new code is introduced. So for example, so the chat will have some existing code. So we can call it as an old code. So now the developers are developing the new functionality. As part of a new functionality, so they are going to introduce the new code. Okay, so they are going to develop the new code. So now what happened, as the new code is introduced, so we should always ensure that there is no breakage in the existing code, which means like the new code should not impact the existing code. So in order to check that, so we may always do the regression testing. So like what is the need of the regression testing in the sense? So like with the help of the regression testing, so we will be ensuring that so due to introduction of new code, so there is no impact in the existing code. And how we will ensure in the sense, by checking the important functionality of an application, which means like let's say like we are having some old code like chat, status or call, etc. So in each and everything, like we may have some important functionality. So like if it is of a chat, so what is the important functionality? So whenever we send the message, so it should deliver, it should get delivered, and whenever someone send a message, so it should deliver back to us. So basically like we will be using the WhatsApp primary for the chat. So at any cost, the chat functionality should work as expected, because like whenever there is a breakage in a chat functionality, then it will leads to a loss of business. And how they can avoid the loss of business in the sense, by keep doing the regression testing, which means they can write the script to check so whether the message is getting delivered to the person one, to the person two, or from the person two to the person one. So likewise they will be writing the automation script, and they will be keep on running the automation script on the regular interval. So by this way, so they will get to know, okay, so whatever the functionality which is available, which is working as expected. So in each and every application, like we will be having the important functionality. So we call it as an happy path flow, and we will automate only the happy path flow. So happy path flow in the sense, like even if you take the Salesforce application, so like if you are going to test this login page, so you may derive a number of scenarios. So whatever the possible scenarios we can derive in the sense, like you can write the scenario to test the label name of each and every text box. So label name in the sense like it indicates like you are going to verify the label name of the username text box, label name of the password text box, and post that like you can validate with the valid credential. So whenever we are using the valid credential, so it should get login and it should navigate to the home page. And whenever we use the invalid credential, okay, so it should throw the error message. And what are the other thing we can check in the sense? So we can check the username text box and we can check the password text box. So like in the username text box, we can check like whether it is accepting the alphabets or the special character or the numerical value. So in the similar way, like in the password text box, we can check like whether it is accepting the characters, numerical or special characters. So what is the difference between the password text box and the username text box in the sense? So whenever we enter something in the password text box, it is getting encrypted. So likewise, so each and every functionality will have different behavior. So we may derive all possible scenarios. So before testing, so like the primary role is like, so we need to derive the all possible scenarios, and post deriving the all possible scenarios, so we need to identify the regression test scenarios. So like here we have derived 5 scenarios. So out of which, so the major functionality, the important functionality, we can say, so whenever the user enter the valid credential, like he should navigate to the home page. So whenever the user enter the invalid credential, so they should it should populate the error message. So we can call this two scenario as a important functionality. So which means like we will be automating this scenario, because like even if there is a change in label name, it is not going to impact the business. So like whatever the scenario you feels, like if it fails it will impact the business, so you can you can make it as a regression scenarios. And the process of automating and we will be automating the regression scenarios, and post automating the regression scenarios, so we will be running those script. So like in order to run the script, so we need an execution system, so for which like we will be using the framework. Okay, so like the framework is nothing but we will be sorry, the framework is nothing but it will be act as a execution system. So which is nothing but, so whatever the scenarios which we have automate, so in order to run as well as maintain the code, so we need this execution system. So because like when post automating, so we need to maintain the code as well. So the reason is like, so you may automated one flow, so due to change in requirement, so the flow might get changed, or the developer may update the backend attribute and attribute value. So during the time our script may fail, so stating the reason like no such element found. So during the time, so we need to update the new locator property. So which means like we are doing the maintenance activity as well. So like in order to run and maintain our code, so we need the execution system, so which we call it as a framework. So in a real time, so we will automate only the regression scenarios. So we won't automate all scenarios. So we will automate only the regression scenarios. So the reason why we are automating the regression scenarios in the sense, because like whenever the new functionality is introduced, so in order to check like it is not impacting the existing functionality, so we will be rechecking it by running the regression scenarios. Because like we may have n number of regression scenarios and we can't execute everything manually. So like if we try to execute the 100 scenarios manually, then it is going to be the time consuming process, and we won't focus upon the new code. So rather than like we will be focusing only on the old code. So in order to save time, so like what we used to do, so we will be automating the regression scenarios. So which means like whenever the new code is introduced, so we can simply kickstart the regression scenarios, and the regression scenarios will run over the server. So as we have done the automation, so post completing the automation, like we will host our code to any of the repository, and the repository will be configured to the server, and on the fixed time interval our automation scenarios will be keep executing, and post execution like we may able to see the result like whether it is pass or fail. If there is any failures, then we need to analyze the failure and we need to identify so whether it is because of an automation script or due to the development script. If it is due to an automation script, so we need to fix the code, and if it is due to the development script, then we should raise the defect and we can communicate to the developer, so stating that like this particular functionality is getting impacted. Okay, or in other case, like we can say this regression testing as a impact testing. So we are just checking is there is any impact on the application, so whether the new code is creating any impact on the existing code. So in order to do so, like we need the help of the framework. So there are n number of framework so which are available in the market. So like we call it as an like TestNG, JUnit, and then like Cucumber, BDD. Okay, so these are the different types of framework which are available in the market. So as part of our training, like we are going to use this Cucumber BDD. So the reason why I'm specifically choosing the Cucumber in the sense because it follows the BDD process. So BDD is nothing but we call it as an behavior driven development. So what is meant by behavior driven development in a sense? So whenever we use the BDD, so it can be understand by both technical as well as a non-technical person. Both technical as well as non-technical person. So how the both technical as well as the non-technical person understand in the sense? So before starting our coding, so we used to do the test design. So the test design is nothing but the process of writing the test case or test scenario. We call it as an test design. So now consider an example like so we have written few codings, right? So if I show this coding to someone, so will they able to understand like what we have automated? So like if you have the knowledge on the coding, so like probably post analysis, so you can able to judge, okay, like we are trying to log in the application with invalid credential and post that like we are validating the error message. So we can able to recognize, which means like the technical person can understand. But in a team, like we are having many non-technical person. So the non-technical person in the sense we can call it as a like manual testers or even the scrum masters or the business analyst. So we can say them as a non-technical person. So like for example, if the BA business analyst is looking on our automation coding, so they will not get an idea. So like what we have tried to automate. So because like they don't have the coding knowledge, which means like there is a few breakage between the team. So like in order to avoid the breakage, so they come up with a common approach called as an BDD. So as part of an BDD, so we need to do the test design. So we need to derive the test design, and post deriving the test design, so we should do the automation coding. Okay, and after completing the automation coding, so we can do the execution. Okay, so this is the flow which they have derived. So initially like we need to do the test design, and followed by we should do the automation coding, and then we should focus upon the execution. So like and how we are going to do the test design in the sense with the help of an BDD. So because like mm, while using the BDD, so we can make the test design very simple, because the BDD follows, or the BDD use the special language called as an Gherkin language. So what is meant by Gherkin language in the sense? So the plain English language is called as an Gherkin language. So it will pick up few keywords in an English. So let's say it will use few keywords like given, when, then, and under. So these are the few keywords like which we are going to use for the test design. And this given, when, then, and we call it as an Gherkin keywords. Okay, so we are going to use this Gherkin keywords, and with the help of the Gherkin keywords, we are going to do the test design. So what is the need of this given statement in the sense? So in order to set the pre-request, we will be using the given statement. So the when is used for user action. So whenever we are going to perform any user action, so we may need to enter the when keyword. So the then is used for validation, and this and we will be using along with the given, when, and then. So whenever there is a multiple prerequisite or multiple user action or multiple validation, so then we will be using this and keyword. So now let me just derive one sample scenario. So with the help of the BDD. So let's say we are trying to validate the error message. So what is the scenario we are going to check? We are going to validate the error message of the Salesforce application. So which means we should use the keyword called as an scenario and pose that we should derive what we are going to validate. So we are going to validate the error message. So state we can mention like scenario is like error message validation in Salesforce application. And how we are going to validate this scenario? So we need to derive the test steps. So we need to derive step by step. So how we are going to validate the error message. So which is nothing but we have written the step by step code. So initially we have did the browser invocation, followed by we have entered the username and then password, and post that we have click on the login button, and then we have verified the error message. So we should mention the test steps in details. So we are going to write the test steps with the help of the given, when, then, and keyword. So the given statement is used for pre-request. So what is the pre-request in the sense? So in order to run the automation script, the first pre-request is we need to invoke the browser, which means we need to do the browser invocation, and then we need to navigate to the home page of an application. So I can mention the same here. So given user navigates to Salesforce application. Okay, so that is a prerequisite for this particular scenario. So we are going to automate the scenario, so which is nothing but we are going to check the error message with the help of an automation. Whenever we are deriving any scenario, so we should use the keyword called as an scenario. Okay, and then I have given the given statement, so where we are going to set the prerequisite. So prerequisite in the sense initially we need to invoke the browser, and then we need to navigate to the application, and post that we are going to do the user action. So what is the user action we are going to do? So we are going to enter the username and the password. So I can say user enters the username and password. Okay, so that is the user action which you are doing. And post entering the username and password, we may click the login button. So even so the clicking of login button, we can tell it as an user action. So whenever there is a multiple user action, we should use the keyword called as an and. So whenever there is a multiple prerequisite or multiple user action or multiple validation, so we should use the keyword called as an and. So I can say and, so user clicks the login button, and then final step is validation. So now after entering the username, password, and after clicking on the login button, So we may get the error message, and with the help of the automation script, we are going to validate the error message. So generally the validation should be covered in the then statement. So I can say, so then, okay, so validate the error message. So we can add the statement called as an, so user validates the error message. So we have derived the test design, which means like we have designed the test scenario with the help of the Gherkin language. So which is nothing but we have used the keywords like given, when, and then. So with the help of this keyword, so we have derived the scenario, and post that, like we will be using the scenario in our automation coding. So the first layer will be like kind of test design, and post creating the test design, so we may map the automation coding under each and every line, or we can tell it as a statement. So under each and every statement, like we will be mapping the automation coding. Okay. So like initially the first step is like we need to derive the possible scenarios, which is nothing but like whatever the scenarios which we are going to automate, so we should derive in a BDD way. So even like nowadays, in the manual testing, so in order to do the test design, so they are doing the BDD as well, because like mm, whenever we use this BDD approach for the manual testing, so we can save the design effort. So we can use the same design for an automation scripting. So which is nothing but we can copy paste this scenario inside our project and post that, like we can map the automation coding. Okay, so now like we are going to write the test scenario, and post writing the test scenario we are going to map the automation coding. And how we are going to write this test scenario in the sense, like as part of this Cucumber BDD framework, so we should create one file, so we call it as a feature file. Okay, so there are three important file in the Cucumber BDD framework. So one we call it as an feature file, and other we call it as an step definition file, and third we call it as an test runner file, or we can call it as an runner file. Okay, so we are having three important file. So the feature file and the step definition file and the runner file. So in the feature file, like we are going to do the test design, and in the step definition file, like we are going to do the automation coding. And then in this runner file, with the help of the runner file, we are going to run the script. Okay, so this is the structure we are going to create using the Cucumber BDD framework. So this one only in the Cucumber BDD framework. So we will be doing the test design and the automation coding, and then we will be having the runner file. But whereas in other framework, so we won't have the test design process. So we will be directly writing the code. So whenever we directly write the code, so no one will understand like what we are trying to check. So that is the reason like we are not using the other framework. So this other framework will follow the approach called as an TDD. Okay, so TDD is nothing but which we call it as an test data driven. So we are not focusing on the design part, rather than we are focusing only on the test data part. So whereas when we use this BDD, so the BDD will focus upon the design part. So as the design gives the simplified steps, like everyone will able to understand so what we are trying to validate. And even like if we have missed few scenarios to automate, so anyone in the team, either the BA can provide the suggestion, or the manual tester can provide the suggestions to automate the particular test case. So basically it will break the barrier between the entire team. So like whenever we use the BDD approach, so now like whatever the things like we have discussed in a theoretical way, now let me try to integrate inside this IntelliJ. Suppose that like you will get the clear picture, so how we are going to do the automation. So as I told, like we are going to do the test design first. So where we are going to do the test design, so inside the file called as an feature file. So we need to create the feature file. So I'm just navigating to the IntelliJ. Okay. So and I'm going to create a file called as an feature file, which is nothing but I'm going to create a package called as an feature file. So inside the test Java, so I'm just right clicking and then I'm just creating the package and I'm just naming the package as a feature file. Okay, so I have created the feature file, and inside which I am going to do the test design. And whenever we are going to do the test design, so we need to create few file, and the extension of the file should be ends with dot feature. Okay, so it should ends with the dot feature. So you should use the keyword called as an dot feature. And before creating this feature file, so what we need to do, so like we need to install some plugins in the IntelliJ. So one and only if we install the plugins in the IntelliJ, it can able to understand the Gherkin keywords. Okay, so like how we have the certain keywords for Java and for the Selenium, so we are having certain keywords for Gherkin, so which is nothing but the given, when, then, and we call it as an Gherkin. So like in order to the Gherkin keywords to recognize, we should add the plugin in the IntelliJ. How we can add the plugin in the IntelliJ in the sense, like just navigate to the IntelliJ and then just click on the main menu. So go to settings, and inside the settings, like we will be having the option called as an plugins. So if you just click on the plugins, okay, so you may able to see the market space. So inside the market space, search with the keyword called as an cucumber plus. Okay, so if you search with the keyword called as an cucumber plus, so you may able to see the install button. So like for me it is asking for the update, as I have already installed, so just I'm providing the update and you guys can click on the install button. So post installation, so the plugin will be get added up, and along with it, so add two more plugin, so which we call it as an Gherkin plugin. Okay, search with the keyword and just add the Gherkin plugin, and then add the another plugin called as an Cucumber for Java. Okay, so try to add this three plugin. So like the first plugin we call it as an Cucumber plus, and next plugin, so we need this Cucumber for Java, and then like we need to add the Gherkin plugin. Okay, so these are the three plugin which we need to add. So like pretty much if you install this Cucumber Plus plugin, so everything will work as expected. But in few system, the mapping won't be established. So that is the reason like I'm trying to install this additional plugin. So in case if the mapping doesn't work, so we can use this other plugins. So you probably for the safer side, so we can install all three plugins. So you can install the Cucumber Plus Java, and the Gherkin. And post installing the plugin, it will ask for the restart. So just click on the restart IDE. So once we click on the restart IDE, so automatically our IntelliJ will closed and it will get reopened. So and after it reopen, so we may create the scenarios. So we can create the feature file, and then inside the feature file we can do the test design, and post completing the test design, so then we can map the automation coding. Okay, so now let the IDE get open.